Alright. So I need about 15 more minutes, give or take, of yo-yo footage to finish this project. So I'm going to do a quick kind of modern yo-yo 101 to just show some of the things that I wish I had known off the bat, I guess. I certainly have 15 minutes. I want it to be uniform, and I only shot 2 places outside, so I could find 15 minutes of uniform yo-yoing, but it would be such a pain sifting through everything and trying to figure out what I haven't already used that I'm just gonna start over. Not start over, but start from scratch. So. Alright, so yeah, 20 years ago when I first got into yo-yos, all of them were basically like this. Throw them down, they would spin at the bottom for a while, and then you pull them up, and it would come back to your hand. You know, something like this, or maybe I could do stuff like this. They're meant to go down, you pull them up, they come up. I could do stuff like, you know, Eiffel Tower, kind of like the first picture trick people learn. And then obviously, you know, around the world type things. But that was about the extent of what I was able to do at 12 or 13. Maybe I learned to do trapeze with one of those yo-yos. You know, like forward pass stuff I could do. But for the most part, I was using plastic yo-yos. They weren't anything like this shape. This is a modern responsive, so it will come back to your hand, but it's a modern shape that you can do modern string tricks. I'm not sure if I ever mentioned in, you know, about 3.5 hours of content total, probably closer to 10 in the various cuts and whatnot. I don't think I ever really mentioned this. The hand shakiness. Here's what the inside's gonna look like. I don't know if I do any close-ups. It's always sort of been there. I recently got a second job at like a little convenience store, and there's like a total of 5 employees, and every single one of them, the owner, the owner's son, 2 managers, at some point asked me like, yo, are you sick? Because they noticed that shakiness. And to my knowledge, no. Alright. So yeah, modern yo-yos, no longer up and down like this, unless you're specifically looking for them to be. In which case, there's plenty of options. I know. So the yo-yo world today is basically, it's in 5 categories. 1A is what I would have done the most of in the entire video. Pretty much all I do is 1A. And that's this unresponsive modern 1A. Basically anytime you have one yo-yo in one hand is considered 1A. But specifically string tricks, so you know, landing it on the string, doing stuff with the string is considered 1A. Mostly what I've been doing throughout, where it's landing on the string, or basically one yo-yo, one hand, and those are usually going to be, these days at least, like this. unresponsive, so it'll just come and it won't come up when you pull it and just spin forever. So that's 1A. 2A is looping, which is basically where you loop the yo-yo and you do like weird, it goes back, comes back to your hand, and you do loops. It's a lot harder than maybe the rest of them, I guess. Usually that's done with 2 hands, 2 yo-yos, and they just do crazy loop tricks, looping tricks. 2A would be like the yo-yos that I used 20 years ago, the ones that are not quite this shape, but thin like this, responsive. And 2A is looping, so you have generally 1 yo-yo in each hand, and you are basically doing loops. So up and down, like as one comes down, or we'll do forward loops where it comes forward, it comes back, it comes forward, it comes back. 2A is very hard. It's a lot different than what's most popular these days, and I don't do anything with 2A. 3A is basically 1A but with 2 yo-yos. So where 1A you'd be doing this sort of stuff, with 3A you'd be doing the same stuff, but you'd be doing it with 2 hands. So it's 2 string tricks at a time, and they'll just be doing this with 1 hand, but then doing the same thing with the other hand. Throw this one down, and then you throw this one down, and basically they're intertwining, and it's unreal looking and impossible to do. So I've never even tried it. I'm pretty much useless with my left hand. So 1A, string tricks, 1 yo-yo. 2A, looping, responsive, boom, 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 back to you. 2 yo-yos, 2 hands. 3A, unresponsive, string tricks, modern yo-yos, but 2 hands at the same time. Just not something I can do, or would like to bother trying to do, honestly. 4A is off string, which uses yo-yos in this shape, but they're usually bigger and plastic, and they are not connected to the bearing. So if you look at this, basically, this is the standard shape these days, and in the middle there's an axle with a high quality bearing so that it will spin pretty much forever and not come back. 4A is going to be the same sort of thing, but instead of having the string tied to the bearing, the string is not tied to anything. It's just a loose string, and basically the yo-yo flies all over the place and you catch it on a loose string. It looks cool. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it, but again, not for me. It's too hard, not meditative enough. Loki, I don't know what you want. You have food. You have everything you need. 5A, the 5th style, is 1A, but with the string not tied around your finger. It uses a counterweight. I do a little bit in the YouTube series because it's fun to mess around with, but it's also hard because a lot more physics involved. I've been doing 5A with no counterweight, so just an open string, not connected to your hand recently, just messing around. So that's 4A, 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A. 5A, I do a little bit in somewhere in the series, and that's basically 1A, but it's called freehand. So instead of using your finger, you have a counterweight, and you basically do the same sort of thing, but you can have your hands free, so you can switch sides. Everything that I do with 1A, you can pretty much do with 2 or 5A, but there's a lot more options. There's also a lot more like physics involved because you have to be able to like simultaneously swing 2 hands at the same time, basically. So I don't really do much 5A because I just don't have the patience to learn it. But it is fun to mess around with sometimes. All I really do is switch hands. But again, I'm kind of useless with my left hand. So. Alright, so that's the 5 styles. Technically, there's, some people call it 0A. There's fixed axles, so like usually wooden yo-yo, and the axle does not have a bearing and it's just fixed to the 2 sides. So those are going to be responsive like this guy, but no bearing. So pretty much almost never is going to sleep at the bottom. It's going to be a lot harder to make it sleep. And yeah, I think they call that 0A because it's like the original fixed axle. But again, I don't really do anything with that. I pretty much stick to the original, the OG string trick 1A stuff. And back when I first got into this, like I said, it would have been a Fireball, Omega, or something like this. Today they do have modern responsive, which is going to be high quality, but it will come back up to your hand. And that's fun, but it's also hard, you know, like, just a lot different than what I use it for my meditation stuff as. So that's kind of what modern yo-yo looks like today. The vast majority, most popular, is 1A or 5A probably, with the counterweight. It's called freehand. So, alright, well that took 10 minutes, so this is, I'll have to edit it down, have too much. Alright, so you want to do yo-yo, and you're like, hey, I don't care what you all say, I'm starting with unresponsive. People are weird about starting with unresponsive. They'll tell you, like, you gotta start with a responsive yo-yo because, you know, it teaches you the basics and the fundamentals and all this sort of thing. And fair enough, probably does if you want to be a potential championship yo-yo player someday. Probably gonna want to learn how to do at least the basics on a responsive yo-yo. A lot less forgiving, but it will teach you, you know, stuff like plane control. If your yo-yo is tilting in the wrong direction, it's a lot easier to learn kind of how to control what is going on. It'll show you when you're messing up because it'll snap back to your fingers if you're doing something wrong. But you say, I don't want to do that. I want to do the cool stuff. Which seems to be kind of the path these days. A lot of the people that yo-yo are kind of like me, did it 20 years ago in the 90s boom, and then forget about it for 20 years, came back in the past 5 or so, and they want to do all the cool new stuff. So the way it works these days is basically they teach you how to throw it, and then in order to get it back to your hand, you have to do a bind, which is the first trick that you learn pretty much. And that's basically just forcing extra string into the gap so that it hits the rubber pads on the side and starts winding up. Of course, this is what the inside is going to look like. Sorry, Loki is going crazy on the scratching post. Let me get that other half of the yo-yo real quick. Nice. So yeah, basically it's gonna spin forever until you force extra string into the gap, and then it will hit these rubber things, wind itself up, come back to your hand. But the way I look at it is, rather than teaching binds as a trick, I think they should be kind of teaching the other big thing that keeps people away is there's not a good way to wind this back up, and you're going to be messing up a lot, so it's just going to spin around the bearing. You can put your finger there, wind it up, stick your finger in the gap and wind it around your finger until you get it tight enough to wind it, but that's obviously slow. Or if the yo-yo is spinning, you can do what's called a bind, where you are forcing more string into this gap in the right angle, and then it catches little rubber pads in there and winds itself back up. So that's the most basic trick of yo-yos today, and it's called a bind. And it looks like this. The yo-yo is spinning. You take the string, you pinch it, and it forces extra string into that gap, starts winding up on it. If you do it on the wrong side, it's going to just basically reject that string out, and it's never going to force it to wind itself up. So, how do you get the yo-yo wound up without doing this every time? Because it's not going to come back to your hand, and you're going to mess up a lot as you start. And that's basically, you just get it spinning however you want. If it were up to me, they would teach the bind trick that makes it come up to your hand at the same time that they teach ways to get it spinning. They seem to be separate tricks, but it's highly recommended that you learn a way to quick start the yo-yo, right? So that's kind of what I would do. I would say learn to quick start and learn to bind at the same time. In a second, I'll talk about the tension thing. But basically, yo-yo's dead, string is neutral. Any way that you can get the yo-yo spinning. So what they'll teach you, main ones are a snap start, where you hold it like this and basically just snap, yo-yo is spinning, and then you can bind it back to your hand. You can do, I don't know if there's a name for this hand sandwich thing, yo-yo spinning, and you can bind it back to your hand. You can bind when the yo-yo is going really slow, and that way you learn the bind, you learn the basics of getting it back to your hand at the same time as you learn how to quickly wind it up. Once you have those two things down, the rest is just how far you want to go. So I tend to do this one. So snap start. Hold it like this, snap it. It's spinning, right? I don't know if this has a name, but you take it between your hands, and it's spinning. Doesn't have to be spinning fast, just has to be spinning. Any of the old style that you might have known 20 years ago, put the string in here, and you push, and it's spinning. Obviously, hold it like this, and it's spinning. You could take it on the ground and just roll it, and it's spinning. You could literally do like a fake dead throw, where you just kind of roll it off your hands, get it spinning. You could, if these weren't so expensive and easy to damage, you could just kind of put it on the ground. Obviously don't do this on concrete, get it spinning that way. you could take it completely, hook it to your finger, and it's spinning. So basically, however you get it spinning, nice and slow, or snap start, or you could do a snap start not holding the strings, just straight to the ground, and then you just add the bind, right? So you put the string the direction it's spinning, and you just let it walk up the string, and then it runs the rest of the way. Drop it, it's spinning, figure out which direction it's spinning, pinch the string at the top, put it into the middle, spinning, figure out which direction it's spinning, put the string in, pinch it, and it'll kind of walk up the string. Pinch, walk up the string. So, obviously there's a lot of practice involved, and it can definitely get annoying when, every 5 seconds the thing is dead like this, and you gotta sit there and wind it back up. But really just get it spinning. Figure out whichever way you like to make it spin, and then just put the string into the gap as it's spinning. Let it walk its way up. Spinning, walk its way up. And if you find that your string is just wanting to shoot out, it means it's on the wrong side, you just flip it to the other side. Spinning, put the string in, up. So that's kind of the very basics that you need to know. The other thing you need to know is that the string will get like this very quickly. Every time you throw it, it's basically going to tighten or loosen the yo-yo string's tension, right? So this is obviously super messed up, so it's going to make it very hard to do any tricks. And every time you throw it, it does one of these, which either tightens it or loosens it, depending on which hand you throw it with. If that's the case, just look at the way the string is spinning, spin the yo-yo in the same direction, stretch it out, a little bit better. Spin in the same direction, stretch it out, a little bit better. Give it a little bit more time, and you're basically back to neutral. Once you're in neutral, it's very easy to get it spinning. Pinch the string at the top so that it walks its way up. At a certain point, you just let go of the pinch. Spinning really fast. Pinch the string at the top, walk it up. So that's the bind, which is the first trick, and how to start the yo-yo, which is however you want. You can snap start, spinning. You can, roll, sandwich, hand sandwich start. You can ghost throw, where it's just roll it off of your hand. Obviously, the faster that it is spinning, the easier it's going to be to bind. But it doesn't really matter. The bind will only work in one direction. So it's spinning this way, so you got to figure out which way it's spinning and which way it needs to bind. Which, to be honest, I still don't even know. Sometimes it's just intuitive, you can just feel it. Pretty much, if you try to bind and the string rejects, it's going the wrong way. So you put the string on the other side, and that's all it is. Hold the string, pinch it at the top, it'll just kind of walk its way back up the string. So you get it spinning, however you get it spinning, figure out which way it's spinning, pinch the string at the top, walk it up. When it's spinning slow, sometimes you gotta toss it up to get it wound all the way. But even if it was spinning slow, and I just kind of go like this, it's only halfway. But now when I drop it, it's going to be spinning much faster, and I can bind it to my hand. So, got the 5 styles. You got the bind, which is forcing the string into the gap of the yo-yo, which basically you just pinch the string, hold it, and then it'll just kind of walk its way up that string. And bind, quick start. That's pretty much all you need. The vast majority of tricks these days are done side style, where you throw it to the side and you land it on the string. It's called a trapeze mount. That's kind of the most basic starting point. And there's other mounts that you can go into to do other tricks. You can obviously use the finger here, but you can also use the thumb. You can use any of these fingers really. So side style throw, land in a trapeze, and then you just kind of figure out what you want to do from there. So you're throwing it sideways, landing on the string. This is the most basic mount. It's called the trapeze. There is still some people that do front style stuff, where you throw it to the front and then you have to kind of do stuff with it facing the same direction as you are. But that's harder and it doesn't look as cool and more frustrating, so I don't really deal with that at all. So throw the yo-yo, figure out which way it's spinning, put the string on the side that it's spinning towards, I think. Pinch the top of the string, and it will come back to your hand. So the only other thing that I would cover, although that was already 20 minutes, let me pause this real quick. I need more than enough time. Here's sort of my interpretation of the yo-yo trick world these days. Basically, hold on. The dog has another dog's toy, so I have to get it away from him real quick. You can't have that. It's not yours. Loki, I don't know what you want. Hold on, Loki. Loki, you have food. I don't know what you want. Alright, so yo-yoing today. All I did in the entire 3 or whatever hours of this project is about 30, 45 seconds worth of stuff. It's kind of all I ever do, because once I find something I enjoy, it's meditation for me. There is Ninja Vanish. So the hobby is basically how to get into towers, right? And so towers look like this, like the Eiffel Tower, whatever. And then the other thing is green triangles. So GTs, basically. And then the other big things that I personally like and that most people seem to be drawn towards are triangles and towers. So this is a triangle. This is a green triangle. If I were to let go with my thumb right here, I'd be in a knot. And anytime you're in a triangle that's going to cause a knot, you have to jump out the right side or else you end up with a knot. And there are all kinds of different triangles, different green triangles. So laceration to green triangle, which is called it's called Brent stole, because I guess some dude named Brent stole this trick from somebody else at some contest. So yeah, triangles, basically this, you want to make sure that you're hopping out of the right side or else you end up with a knot. So here's a ninja vanish, where you land on that string when you're in a triangle. This one you would hop out of the front, so you don't get a knot. And then the only other thing that I would highlight is the towers. Basically, this shape is a tower, the basic tower. There are others. So the one I showed earlier that I knew as a kid, the Eiffel Tower or whatever, that's like the original quintessential picture trick where you make a picture out of the string. But again, there are lots of ways to get into towers. And pretty much my experience with the whole hobby is how can I get in and out of towers and triangles, right? Towers, triangles, pops, finger spins, the tech stuff that I don't like. The other big thing is laceration or hooks, slack. Anytime you're doing something with the slack of the yo-yo, like all this loose stuff. Those are popular, but again, it's very hard. Obviously, you gotta watch out for those snags. That probably means that your string tension is messy. If you ever saw me do this. Ooh, 17, that's too long. This is basically making the string wind around. If I do it long enough, you'll see the string is super loose, but then it will be too loose in the other direction. That's not terrible. Alright, so I think that should be plenty of information. I know I said I wasn't going to film anywhere outside of the car as far as voice, but I ended up home alone, so I can do that. Okay, but to be very careful with your tension, your string maintenance. Every time you throw the yo-yo, it winds or loosens the string basically one time tighter, and eventually you'll end up with this, which is not good for really any sort of tricks. So you have to fix that. A bunch of ways to fix that too. This would be my favorite. Get in this position, and basically what it's doing there is it's spinning the string outside of the yo-yo, loosening it back up. So now the string tension is fixed. You can also do the same thing where you kind of pop it up, loosen it that way. You could, in theory, just take the yo-yo, figure out which way it's twisting, twist it the same direction, and just let it sit there. That will fix your tension. So now it's twisting the other direction. You could just let the yo-yo hang. Once it stops spinning itself around, it'll be back to neutral. And now I'm at probably 25 minutes. I only needed 15, so I'm gonna have to edit some of this. So we're gonna call it good there. Your yo-yo 101.